So yet another day and another full review of a brand new release fragrance here in 2025. Again, if you've been following my channel, especially this week, I told you that I was going to be doing a lot of the full review follow-ups to the first impressions of the brand new releases that I got in. I've already done 3 or 4, and now I have about 3 more to go, maybe 4. Today's is going to be the Givenchy, then I have the YSL, and then I also have the 2 Stronger with Yous, and then I think I have one more after that, maybe the Rasazi or something like that. But with that said, today we're doing my full review, performance, all of that, of the brand new Givenchy Gentleman's Society Ombré, which I told you guys I love. So I'm going to tell you guys if I still do. So without further ado, let's get it. What's good, my great smelling dudes? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Randy, aka Fragrance Dude, back at you with another full review, brand new release here in 2025. Before we get into it, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Also, help out your boy. Hit that thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Comment below. Let me know if you guys have tried this fragrance out. It's finally hit stores on March 6th. So if you're able to try it out, let me know what you think about it. Because I told you in my first impressions, to me, this was a release of the year. I was only an hour in, so I wasn't able to get fully into the dry down. With that said, how has it changed for me? Well, let me talk to you guys about the line real quick, because I do have the other 2 right here. The first one, this is stemming off the Givenchy Gentleman line, and it's kind of like a flanker line on it. And this is the Eau de Toilette version. So it's technically a new line, like based on the DNA and stuff. It still has a little bit of the orris butter in there, but for the most part, I can consider this like just like a flanker line off of the Gentleman. But this is the original Society. I believe it's in, is it Eau de Parfum, Eau de Toilette? Eau de Parfum, I thought so. This is the Eau de Parfum. And the Eau de Parfum is where it has that orris butter. It's the powderiest of the 3 that are here. This is really the one that I consider your Prada L'Homme, your Eau de Toilette Intense of the Givenchy. It's the one that you wear to work. It's the signature version of the line. And usually with those, they are the easiest wear, but they're not going to be the one that you see reviewers saying, oh my God, that's the best fragrance ever. Usually they're the ones that you rank a 7.5 to an 8. They're above average, and they smell really good, and that's exactly what this one got from a lot of people. Palo Santo vanilla powder, a little bit of a buttery orris. I actually really enjoy the fragrance. It took me a couple weeks of wearing it to really understand how much I did enjoy wearing it, but again, it doesn't blow you out of the water. It just makes you feel like, hey, that's a good fragrance, but it doesn't really make anybody. Like, I understand why if some people don't like it, and I understand why people love it. So I'm just right in the middle. I think that's what this fragrance is built for. Then you have the next one. The only thing that you can tell different is that the logo is just slightly darker, and this is an Eau de Parfum Extreme, but this is Gentleman's Society Extreme. This, probably the release of last year, best release last year. It took this DNA, the Palo Santo and vanilla, and focused more on that, and it added coffee. It said cold brew, but it's like a nice roasted coffee. But what it did was it took away some of the powder. It's still a little bit powdery, but it smoothened out the edges. It made it a little bit warmer. It made it a little bit more of a night out feeling. A little bit more, I guess you could say like clubbing style scent. It has that feeling to it, but also has that masculinity and a luxurious vibe that you get. But this is warm. It's rich. It's smooth. It is just everything that you wanted, I should say, in this. And they just did it perfectly by adding a little bit of the coffee, some of that sweetness, the Ambree tones, a little bit of woods. It's just beautifully blended, and then it still has that nice Palo Santo under there, which kind of smells like sandalwood in my opinion, like a warmer kind of creamy woods. Anyway, and now we're working our way into this. This is Givenchy Gentleman Society Ombre. So the bottle, again, so we had the silver or chrome Givenchy logo. And these bottles are a little bit taller than the other ones, the older ones. Then you have the dark one, and now you have the kind of like gold. It's the Ambree version of the Givenchy symbol. And what is the concentration on this? Also, it's an eau de parfum ombre. People are always like, oh man, elixirs are the best concentration. They're not a concentration. There is eau fraiche, eau de toilette, well, eau de cologne too, eau de toilette, eau de parfum, and parfum. Past that, they're just made up. And so they're kind of making fun of it. Eau de parfum ombre. That's pretty funny. So what does this smell like? It honestly is rivaling the 9 out of 10 that I gave this one. When you first spray this one on, it does remind you of this one. For the first like 5 minutes, you can say it is about 80% Givenchy Gentleman's Society Extreme. This one's a little bit more ambery. It feels like it's a bit warmer, but then it dries down. And when it starts to dry down, that is where this fragrance really hits its stride. Best dry down in the line. I'm telling you, this stuff is amazing. Not going to be for everybody, but it's amazing. But let me give you the note breakdown so you can understand the fragrance a bit more. I always do in my full reviews. Top notes are French Narcissus, Uruguayan Vetiver, and Madagascar Vetiver. Mid notes are Madagascar Vanilla and Peru Balsam. And the base notes are amber, leather, and tobacco. So, I didn't know the note breakdown whenever I first went into this because I got it pretty early. And I got to say, I first sprayed it on and I was like, okay, it's a gentleman's society. But it was like, you could see my face during my first impressions. I was like, holy crap, that smells amazing. It does, and I love extreme. So, I mean, I still thought the opening 5 minutes is amazing. It's just kind of like remove the coffee, replace it with amber. That's what the opening 5 to 10 minutes smells like. Once you get to that mid into the dry down, when the Narcissus really is showing its face, the Narcissus comes across a little bit sweeter. It has that more ambery vibe, and it starts to work its way into almost like if you had Gentleman's version of like Grand Soir, and then that's like kind of in the mid where that amber's really starting to pull up. It's this nice balsamic amber, very, very beautiful. And then you start to get further into the dry down. I have heard 50 different comparisons to this. The two that I compare it the most to, because I know people love comparisons, is again the opening Gentleman's Society Extreme with amber and like an amped up French Narcissus. If you don't know what French Narcissus is, I can't help you. You just need to know. And then when you get to the dry down, it reminds me of like pieces of the Society Extreme, but underneath, like a mix of Tobacco Vanille meets Grand Soir. That's like the vibe that I get. So it still has its own thing going on. So it doesn't remind me of this or that or this, but the tobacco in it really mixes together with that balsamic vanilla, has this nice creamy vibe with a little bit of a powdery structure under the fragrance, obviously surrounded by that warm amber, and it's just, it's so freaking good. But I mean, the tobacco isn't too leafy, it's not too moist, like it's not like too dry of a tobacco like Royal Tobacco by Amouage, which I love. It's not too moist of a tobacco like Parfums de Marly Herod that I love. I love most types of tobacco. It's kind of like right in the middle. It's just a nice blend, just like Tobacco Vanille, but not as dry and leafy. And then you mix that together again with this nice balsamic vanilla that has this powdery Peru balsam underneath it, and then that French Narcissus and amber is just creeping in. The Narcissus is pretty heavy in the mid, but when you get to the dry down, it does fall away into the background. But with that said, just in layman's terms, how does it smell? It smells warm, it smells rich, it smells masculine, but it also has this playful vibe about it. So really, if you're looking at seasonality of the fragrance, I would stay away from it in the summer, but you can get away with it in the spring, fall, or winter for sure. It's just probably, I have to wear it more, but I'm going to take a leap and just say I'm not going to judge either of these against each other. I'm going to say that they're tied. I like this one, and I wouldn't put this one above a 9 because I have other fragrances that I know I like a little bit more than this. But with that said, I give this a 9. I give this a 9. Is one better than the other? It depends on what you like. If you want a little bit of coffee, then there you go. If you want more of like an ambery tobacco in the dry down, because a lot of people just look at the opening of the fragrance, and while it is redundant to that in the first 5 minutes, once you get to the dry down, this has really nothing to do with the other two. It has a Peru balsam in the background and some French narcissus, but outside of that, it has nothing to do with those two. Again, it's more warm, rich, balsamic, amber vanilla mixture, maybe a little bit of lavender in there, an undertone of this French narcissus that provides a little bit of a sweetness and a little slight bit of floral. But then you have this nice build of tobacco on top, and it's just a beautiful scent. Best way to describe it, if you've tried pieces of Grand Soir and you've tried, or if you've tried Grand Soir and you've tried Tobacco Vanille, it's like mesh those two together and make it have an undertone of Gentleman's Society Extreme. That's the way that I can put it. That's what the bulk of the fragrance smells like. As far as performance, let's get to that. Performance is actually phenomenal with it. So for the first 2 to 3 hours, it does push out pretty nicely. I wouldn't say it's like really heavy, like 6 feet. I would say it's more like 4 to 5 feet. Very nice. I get noticed by it. I get more compliments from this one and this one than I have from pretty much any other fragrance that I have in the last 2 years. With that said, my wife does like the Extreme a little bit better, which I know this is going to be loved by men more than women. And this one's going to be loved by women. But with that said, I have got compliments for both. Anyway, performance, I'd say about 4 feet for the first 3 hours. Then it starts to get a little bit lighter, but it's a personal bubble that lasts about 10. I've told you guys, if I get to 10 hours, I'm stopping because I take a shower. And if people are telling you it's like 12 hours, 15 hours, nobody wears fragrances that long. And so unless you're waking up at 6 a.m. in the morning and you're going to bed at like 9 or 10 o'clock at night, you're not going to have like any idea what the performance of that is unless you don't take a shower at night and you take a shower in the morning. It's just, most of the time when it comes to judging fragrances, you only need to know, is it 8 hours? If it is, then that's what you get. But for me, I did get 10 hours out of this one. By the time you get to that 7 to 8 hour mark, it is closer to the skin scent. But from hour 3 to hour 7 to 8 is whenever you're still building out a personal bubble, and I was still noticed by my wife. Once it gets further in, you really just have this nice kind of semi-creamy tone and a little bit of powder underneath that is just really just the leftover nuances of that amber and tobacco with the Palo Santo and a musky tone underneath it. It's fantastic. Just a little bit more gentlemanly than this one, but it still kind of leans unisex, leaning masculine. I love it. I'm going to give that a 9 out of 10. I think it's the best release so far this year. It is right up my alley. I love this line. I think that they have the one for work. They got the one to go out. And then they have the one that is, if you want to just like feel a little bit more professional, it's just a little bit more dressed up. That's my opinion for this one. That's what you get. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Absolutely love the fragrance. And again, seasonality is anything but summer, but wear it when you want. Just, I would recommend trying this. This is not going to be for everybody. If you didn't love the other two, I still would try this one out because of that dry down. But I wouldn't blind buy it unless you know that you like the Extreme. If you like the Extreme, I can almost guarantee you'll like this one. But with that said, thank you guys so much. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll be back with the YSL Y Late Parfum 2025 full review tomorrow. Thank you guys so much. Peace out.